For those of you who were here 16 years ago, these images have likely started to fade. February 28, 2001, the 6.8 Nisqually earthquake. If you're a newcomer to the area, and there are many of you who are, yes, earthquakes do happen in western Washington. And scientists and emergency managers say the Nisqually earthquake will look like a warm-up act for what's coming in our future.
124.15.
But now we have a new tool, an earthquake warning system that just went West Coast wide.
This is a test. Earthquake, earthquake.
It's called Shake Alert, and in this test, Seattle would have 18 seconds that a quake was coming with the potential for severe shaking.
Earthquake, earthquake.
Bill Steele is with the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network at the University of Washington.
One of the challenges we face, even with the best science, in a given earthquake at a given distance, you could get any of 4 different intensity levels of shaking. So shall we move to Olympia?
Olympia and Tacoma would have received less warning, just 11 seconds. Yet while Olympia had lots of damage, Tacoma had relatively little. The new Shake Alert system does 2 things. It tells us how much time we have to brace ourselves, and it gives us a worst-case scenario for the shaking potential.
Earthquake, earthquake.
It will take a few more years before there's an app on your phone. The biggest test now, protecting our infrastructure, and that's where the pilot program comes in. Take water. We take it for granted until it's taken away.
The earthquakes we've had in the Northwest have been relatively small compared to the one we're planning for. And so there's a tendency to be apathetic and think that your water system is going to survive, because it has.
Dan Irvin is CEO of RH2 Engineering in Bothell. The 37-year-old company says it's worked for half of the water systems in Washington and Oregon. Now it's leading a pilot program to test Shake Alert under real conditions.
This is representing the USGS signal.
Lee Tumbleson is a control system project manager. USGS is the U.S. Geological Survey, which is the lead agency on Shake Alert.
Typically, the water would be flowing from the reservoir to the homes and businesses.
In the lab, they can demonstrate how a water system would be shut down. This tank, a water tower. This valve, a small version of the valve that would be closed to keep water draining out through a broken pipe. Then there are the electronics standing at the ready.
And in the event of an earthquake, which we are simulating on a smartphone here.
He demonstrates how Shake Alert would send a signal to a box to a control system already in place. This tiny valve shuts with a click and the water stops. But big valves on these water systems can be 3 feet in diameter. RH2 says most water systems are equipped with shutoff valves triggered when the shaking arrives. But here's the catch.
Sometimes those valves can take 20, 30, 45 seconds to close. If we start them closing when we sense the shake, they may not get closed by the time the damage has occurred.
Pipes did break in the Nisqually quake. Broken pipes mean firefighters may not have water to put out quake-caused fires. But water systems are closely monitored electronically, so water could be released into pipes that remain intact.
Water is going to be much more important in that situation than it has been in the past.
Earthquake, earthquake.
The system could also prevent fires at pumping stations that are needed to refill water tanks and reservoirs with water coming out of the mountains and other sources.
We might also open a switch at a pump station and de-energize it electrically, so that when the shaking is extreme, there's no electricity in that station and therefore no source of ignition, which would minimize the possibility it would catch on fire, which would maximize the probability that it's usable after the earthquake.
Earthquake, earthquake. Very strong shaking expected in 3 seconds.
The closer you are to an earthquake, the less warning you get. But consider the big one expected off our coast. Depending on where it starts,
Earthquake, earthquake.
The Seattle-Tacoma metro area would have more time. Coastal communities, less.
If this epicenter was down off the coast of Eureka in Northern California and started rupturing north, we would have over 4 minutes of warning.